BLM? Since you want to be so black power?
BLM is a scam.
Clip that. Send it to the fucking news.
BLM was literally a scam. They had bought mansions, and you probably wouldn't know anything about it because you don't care about black people.
The Justice Department now investigating whether leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement defrauded people who donated tens of millions of dollars during the 2020 protests.
Did you all hear the breaking news on Black Lives Matter? Because it's pretty wild. Do y'all remember when that organization raised around $90 million back in 2020 after the George Floyd protest? Well, now federal prosecutors are investigating where that money went. And this isn't some social media rumor. This is the Department of Justice, and they've issued subpoenas, they've executed at least one search warrant, and they're reviewing how the donations were handled. Did the money go towards actually helping the communities people were donating for? Because a lot of donors believe they were supporting local programs, families, and even neighborhood rebuilding. But over the last few years, most of the headlines we've seen about Black Lives Matter leadership involve luxury homes, consulting fees, and internal disputes, not community investments.
You remember 2020, right? The streets were packed, voices were loud, everyone was screaming no justice, no peace, the George Floyd situation, and right in the middle of that storm, Black Lives Matter became the biggest movement on the planet. Money poured in, not just hundreds or thousands of dollars, over $90 million. Now fast forward, the Department of Justice is investigating where that cash went, because apparently some of it took a little detour straight into luxury real estate. Yes, Justice got a mansion in Beverly Hills. They called it a creative space for black artists. Unless that black artist is a rapper, I don't see why you need a mansion in Beverly Hills. I mean, I didn't get a call, but let's talk about that and more. Let's get into it. At first, Black Lives Matter was about outrage, marching, change, accountability. But once the donations started to roll in, the vibe shifted from movement to management.
And so we can't take sole responsibility for 3,000 protests around the globe, because that's people listening and responding and saying, okay, we hear the words Black Lives Matter, we're going to prove it, we're going to take it to the streets.
There are children who are coming of age in a generation where they see themselves as being affirmed and valued. We deserve to live in a multiracial democracy that works for all of us. And so this is not in vain.
They built a foundation, the BLM Global Network Foundation. Sounds official, right? Like something with a boardroom and a mission statement. But turns out it was more like a nonprofit with a really expensive Zillow habit. Millions came in, promises went out, and then poof, silence. No clear reports, no receipts, just the mansions there. They said this house was for content creation, but what content? Is it TikToks about oppression with marble countertops? What value does all these mansions have to do with Black lives? I don't know.
Now I will tell you exactly what the BLM founder spent all y'all donation money on. This has all been fact checked, by the way. Firstly, she gave her brother $900K for security services to his nonprofit. Then gave her baby daddy $1 million for produce live events and creative services. Then proceeds to give another founder $2 million, invested $32 million in stocks, spent a whopping $37 million on grants, real estate, and charter on private flights, according to Doc Tax File. But don't worry, she was kind enough to reimburse the organization $73,000 out of the $37 million that they spent. This explains how y'all got $6 million mansions for no reason. She claimed that they had way too much money to manage and it was all common mistake.
Now, the Department of Justice doesn't just wander into your business for fun. They're investigating whether donors were defrauded or misled. Translation, did people give money for justice and get a real estate portfolio instead? If they knew from the beginning that they were going to spend that money on mansions, would people have donated, spend their hard-earned money on that organization if that was the mission statement from the beginning? That's the question.
Black Lives Matter, for example. How many black people did that help? It hurt a lot of black people, but in the end, we should be able to measure it. You know, like how many black people have died by gunfire in the 4 years since George Floyd died? Well, the number's gone way, way up. And that was a Black Lives Matter operation, defund the police. So I think we can say, as a factual matter, a data-based matter, Black Lives Matter didn't help black people. And if it did, tell me how. Well, these are important moral victories. I'm over that. That's just another lie a long litany of lies.
During George Floyd, when I was telling everybody that these Marxist women were going to defraud y'all and take all y'all money, well, it turned out they stole about $90 million from celebrities, from y'all that were deceived and thought that they was just like the Democratic Party. They were the answer to the black people's pain and the answer to black people's suffering. You know what they did? Just like y'all, just like some of our black preachers, just like the Democratic Party, they took y'all vote, just like the Black Lives took y'all money. They defrauded. They bought houses in different area codes. They didn't even give, none of that money was raised, that none of it even fixed the communities.
So subpoenas were sent. Search warrant was served, because when you talk about these numbers, there's a problem. Black Lives Matter reportedly raised about $90 million in 2020. By 2021, they said they spent about $37 million on grants, real estate, and staff. That's a lot of money being spent. Now, I know Black Lives Matter wasn't a financial literacy group, because I don't know who taught them about budgeting, but spending community donations on a 6-bedroom house in California is not exactly a program expense. They bought multiple properties across states. One of them was worth $6 million. So when people started to ask questions, they said, well, these are just safe space for black creators. Again, I didn't get an invite. And let's be real. Who is that really helping? A handful of insiders, some consultants, maybe the occasional influencer that got invited for a photo op? Because no everyday donor ever got the address. No protester ever got an invite. I'm sure no grieving mother ever spent a night there. If the mansion's purpose was to support the community, did we see the workshops? Did we see any youth programs, any job fairs? I mean, all I saw was parties, private events, and a lot of PR spin. I mean, if you want to say that there's systemic racism out there, how can you fix it from a gated community with valet parking? The optics alone are just extremely brutal. The activists out there in the streets, while the leaders are enjoying their luxury. Even if you want to call this a creative hub, it's hard to ignore that it mainly created comfort for the few people who signed the checks. Every dollar that went into that property could have went to, legal aid, real scholarships, bail funds, food drives, actual change.
Black Lives Matter's finances under scrutiny once again as tax documents show the nonprofit on the brink of bankruptcy.
The nonprofit has spent most of that money, ending last year with a $9 million deficit. Federal filings from 2020 to 2022 show just a third, $30 million, went to other charitable organizations. $22 million went to expenses. This includes millions paid to board members and family members of co-founder Patrisse Cullors. For example, $1.6 million went to the father of Cullors' child for security services. Another $2.1 million went to BLM board member Shaloma Bowers for consulting.
I feel vindicated because 2 years ago I said that this organization was a disingenuous scam, and it has proven itself to be a disingenuous scam.
Patrisse Cullors left BLM leadership in 2021 after documents revealed she spent millions on luxury homes in LA and Georgia.
So tell me again how this mansion helped anyone but themselves. Because unless that infinity pool doubles as a community resource center, it's not liberation. It's just a luxurious lifestyle, funded by people who donated to them. Because nothing screams grassroots activism than a mansion in the Beverly Hills. It didn't stop with just the money. BLM's own local chapter started calling out the national office. They said funds were disappearing before they even hit the ground. Think about that. The people who are actually organizing on the streets, risking arrest, going back and forth with the cops, getting hit with pepper spray, all that crazy stuff. They're saying, yo, where's the money you told the whole world was for us? And the leadership's response was basically, we'll get back to you. But they never did. That's when people started to use that word, grift.
This organization has been capitalizing off of unfortunate deaths and tragedies and guilt-tripping people to send them lots of money and donations.
They have really no idea what they're doing, and it shows. So that's why it looks like they're slowly going under.
Because while you're living in a multi-million-dollar mansion, while your city chapters can't afford basic necessities for protests, that's not activism, that's an influencer scam with extra steps. And this stuff gets even messier. BLM sued its own fiscal sponsor, the Tides Foundation, a group that held over $33 million for them. BLM claimed that Tides was holding their money hostage.
Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation is suing Tides Foundation, which is a nonprofit that manages cash for nonprofits who don't have status with the IRS, so smaller nonprofits. BLM GNF is saying that they entrusted $33 million to Tides Foundation back in 2020 when they did not have status with the IRS, essentially for safekeeping and for management of that cash. In 2021, when they asked for that cash back, Tides refused and said they were giving money to other BLM chapters. So the key question is, who has the right to the donations that came into Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation?
So let me get this straight. The movement that was supposed to fight the system is suing another nonprofit over missing millions. It's like watching Robin Hood argue with GoFundMe. So what's next? The DOJ is digging into the tax filings, property records, and donor communications. They're looking for intent. Was this sloppy accounting or just straight up fraud? And while no criminal charges have dropped yet, we all know how these stories go. First comes the headlines, then comes the denials, then the "we were misunderstood," then comes the plea deals. The real damage to this situation, this movement, is when people donated, especially back then in 2020, during the pandemic, and people were lost and hurt and confused. When people donate in pain and protest, and that money ends up buying a luxury home, that's not community investment. That's emotional death. People believed in them. And when the people stop believing in you, no mansion can buy that back. We will follow this story and see where it ends up. I believe that there's probably some fraud there. I don't believe that BLM was being honest and what they were going to do with that money. They had so much money, they thought they can buy things for themselves and still help the community, but they didn't really care about the community because not $1 should have went to a home. That money should have been there to actually do work that they said they was going to do. And that never happened. That's why everyone calls BLM a scam. That entire organization is no longer the same as it was a couple of years ago. It's a former shell of itself. Now it's more of a punchline. But we'll continue to follow the story. Let me know what you guys think about this story in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.